Every night, my son asks. If I'm alone, last night's unexpected lie revealed an incredible truth. Jake wiped the sweat from his brow, the grease stains on his hands a testament to another grueling day at the garage. The clock ticked relentlessly, each minute dragging as he calculated how long it would be before he could tuck Max in. The weight of responsibility crushed him, a dull ache in his chest that never really went away. Another night loomed ahead, and with it, the simple yet loaded question that Max asked every evening. "Dad, are you alone?" The words were innocent, but they danced around unspoken truths, nagging at Jake's insecurities and resurrecting haunting memories of his childhood. At the kitchen table, dinner felt heavy with expectations. The modest meal of meatloaf and mashed potatoes stood untouched, an unvoiced judgment of Jake's own inadequacies echoing between them. He forced a smile for Max's sake, but a familiar resentment bubbled beneath the surface. He could never shake the feeling that he was repeating the cycle. A father stuck in the grime of routine, unable to escape the ghosts of the past. Fighting a cringe at the thought, he picked at his food while Max spoke about his day, animated as always. The boy's enthusiasm only deepened Jake's spirals of doubt. Was he enough? As the clinking of forks gave way to silence, Jake felt a rush of panic. He didn't want to lie, but desperation urged him on. "Sometimes there's a mystery helper who lends a hand," he said, the words tasting like betrayal. Max's eyes lit up, filled with wonder, as Jake's heart sank. In that moment he became a storyteller, crafting a world for his son that was detached from their reality. The weight pressed harder in his chest. The burden of this white lie felt heavier than the tires he changed day after day. A reckless thrill ignited in Max's imagination, but Jake wrestled with the knowledge that he had woven a disingenuous narrative, a fabric of deception. The onslaught of thoughts twisted and tangled in his mind, leaving him breathless. Would this lie push Max further into a world of dreams never meant to exist? What would happen when his son sought this elusive mystery helper and found only shadow? Painfully, Jake contemplated his own father, an absence marked by sacrifices and stifled ambitions. "Dad, are you alone?" echoed through Jake's mind, lingering like a cloud that never cleared. The more he pondered the question, the deeper it delved into him. He thought of the guitar collecting dust in the attic, his father's laughter, and the crushing realization that he traded dreams for obligations. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The evening stretched out, each minute full of tension, gripping his insides as Jake stood on the precipice of discovery. Or disaster. Just then, Max chirped about unearthing the mystery helper, an almost dangerous excitement lighting up his young face. Jake's heart sank with an anxiety he couldn't understand. What if this quest ignited more than curiosity? What if it unveiled buried wounds still sharp beneath the surface? Max's search would lead them into uncertainties neither could foresee. Jake felt like a tumultuous sea, yearning for calm but fighting against the tide. And as the sun set, painting the kitchen with hues of orange and purple, Jake stole a glance at the attic stairs. An escape route, or a Pandora's box awaiting its moment. Deep inside, a commitment to face what lay within pulled him closer. But was he ready? The question lingered, as thick as the air around them, a knot of fear and hope tangling together, leading Jake to wonder if he could truly become the father Max needed. Jake lay in bed that night, the quilt pulled tight around him as if to shield himself from the reality pressing down on his chest. Max had fallen asleep almost instantly, his dreams filled with the magic of mystery helpers and fantastic adventures. Jake, however, felt trapped in his own skin, alive with uncertainty and regret. The weight of the lie coiled around him like a serpent, reminding him that he was playing a game with his son that had the potential to unravel at any moment. As the silence of the house enveloped him, he couldn't escape the feeling that by crafting this facade, he was building a wall between himself and Max. He imagined the boy searching high and low, peering behind corners and under beds, all in pursuit of a dream Jake had fabricated. Would this quest for an imaginary savior turn into a disappointment too great for a child to bear? Would Max's illusions of joy shatter if he ever learned that his father was just trying to distract him from a staggering truth? In the wee hours of the morning, the attic called to him. The guitar hidden within it, a relic of dreams stifled and abandoned. He could almost hear the soft strums, the melodies that once filled his own childhood with color. The question of his own worthiness clawed at him, demanding attention. If he truly wanted to give Max a sense of magic, why not show him the real magic he had once known? But the thought of confronting the past grew heavy in his mind. As if he were weighted down by chains of nostalgia and regret, the first rays of dawn filtered into the room. With a determination that surprised him, he swung his legs over the side of the bed, feeling the cool hardwood touch the soles of his feet. Each step toward the attic felt monumental, as if he was preparing to face not just the dust and shadows above, but also the boy he once was. The child who had believed in the power of dreams and the music they could create. He climbed the rickety stairs, each creak reminding him of how long it had been since he allowed himself to confront his past. The attic door groaned open, revealing a world ensconced in cobwebs and echoes of laughter. Jake's heart quickened, the thrill of possibility rekindling a spark he thought had long extinguished. He reached for the guitar, its body warm beneath his fingertips after so long being untouched. As he settled into a nearby worn-out chair, a flood of memories washed over him. The carefree tunes he strummed after school, the warmth of summer evenings spent wandering through melodies. His hands trembled as he began to play, hesitant at first, but gradually finding comfort in familiar chords. The haunting sound filled the attic, notes drifting through the air like a gentle breeze. In that moment he felt something shift within him. The tightness in his chest loosened. He was no longer just an absentee father, shackled by obligations. He was Jake, the dreamer, a man reclaiming what was rightfully his. The melodies rebirthed ambition as he realized that sharing this newfound passion with Max could create a genuine connection. Rooted in authenticity, he allowed himself to imagine performing for Max one day, showcasing the music instead of fabricating fantasies. With each strum, the weight of the lie was replaced by the possibility of truth. He could bridge the divide between their worlds by embracing who he was, alongside who he wanted to be for his son. As the last echoes of music hung in the air, Jake recognized a crucial question had shifted in the balance. Instead of hiding from Max's inquiries, he needed to turn that gaze inward. Perhaps he wasn't as alone as he believed. He was moving toward a reality that held the potential for transformation. But before he could fully acknowledge the implications of this realization, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Dad, is that you?" Max stood at the attic's threshold, his eyes wide with wonder. Panic seized Jake, but then awareness dawned. This was his moment to decide what version of himself he wanted to show. Jake faced the crossroad of vulnerability and courage, knowing the echo of their shared truth would resonate far beyond the walls of this attic. The question now loomed larger than ever. Could he reveal the truth behind the music, or would fear drive him back into the shadows? As he locked eyes with his son, the answer hovered tantalizingly close, yet still blurred on the horizon of potential. Jake's pulse quickened as he faced Max, the boy's wide-eyed fascination a mirror reflecting his own insecurities. The guitar still rested in his hands, the echoes of the past reverberating in both the music and the moment. Every instinct urged him to retreat into safety, to craft yet another elaborate tale. But confronting Max would mean stepping onto a path that felt both crucial and terrifying. "Hey, buddy," he finally responded, his voice unexpectedly steady. "I was just playing some music." "Wow. Can you play The Adventures of Captain Star? The one you always sing?" Max's excitement crackled through the air, and Jake felt a pang of warmth mixed with sadness. That song belonged to a father masking reality with whimsy, a father more focused on keeping Max in a bubble of dreams than the world outside. "Maybe today I could show you how to play it," Jake said, surprised at his own boldness. The look of delight spilling onto Max's face ignited something within him. Perhaps this was a real chance to connect, to share something authentic rather than relying on falsehoods. "Really?" Max squeaked, his enthusiasm buoyant. "Yeah," Jake said softly. "But first, can we talk for a minute?" Max's expression shifted from excitement to curiosity. He stepped into the attic, leaving behind the door's safety like a ship casting off from the shore. "About what?" Jake took a deep breath, the air thick with dust and potential. "About what's happening in our lives. Sometimes things look a lot better on the surface than they are. I know I've been making it seem like there's magic everywhere, but life is complicated." Max's brow furrowed, grasping the weight of his father's words. "But are you okay, Dad? Like, for real?" Jake felt the constriction of doubt creep back in. "I'm working on being okay, Max. It's hard sometimes. I don't want you to worry, but I don't want to hide from you either." A thoughtful silence settled between them, punctuated by the soft creaks of the attic. Jake's mind raced. This was more than just a conversation. It was a reckoning, a confrontation with the man he had become and the father he desperately wanted to be. "Can we make music together?" Max asked, his earnestness cutting through Jake's swirling thoughts. "Maybe it could be our magic." "Yeah," Jake replied, the word surprising him. "Creating music together can be our magic." Max's eyes sparkled, and for a moment, Jake felt as if the world outside the attic faded. Here was a chance to embrace vulnerability, to share genuine aspects of himself, rather than preconceived fantasies. Perhaps music could bridge the gap, built by years of postponing aspirations and hiding fears. Jake positioned the guitar on his knee, strumming the chords of The Adventures of Captain Star. He poured the complexity of his conflicting emotions into the rhythm, the notes echoing stories untold and dreams unfulfilled. He glanced at Max, watching as the boy's face lit with recognition and excitement. As they played, something shifted in Jake. Each chord carried the weight of his regret, but also the promise of transformation. He didn't have all the answers or solutions to their problems, but in this musical exchange, there was healing. A way to reclaim both his passion and his role as a father. When they finished, the room hung heavy with promise. Max's smile was wide, but Jake could sense deeper questions brewing behind those bright eyes. The vulnerability was palpable, and with it came anxiety. Would he truly be able to navigate this new territory of honesty and music? Or were they destined for another round of silence filled with unasked questions? "Dad?" Max's voice broke through the moment of uncertainty. "What's going to happen next?" Jake met his son's gaze, the answer teetering on the edge of his tongue. He realized he must commit to the journey of authenticity and creativity, but fear of the unknown loomed large. "Let's just take it one song at a time, okay?" Max nodded, a flicker of understanding glowing within his eyes. Meanwhile, Jake felt the undercurrents of his choice thrum through him. This was more than music. This was the beginning of a new reality for them both. Yet, even as potential unfurled, a creeping doubt lingered in Jake's mind. How long could they sustain this newfound honesty, especially when secrets and fears still lay in wait? As curiosity sparked between them and their world shrank to just the two of them, a nagging thought resided at the back of Jake's mind. What truth still lurked beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered? Regardless of how beautiful their music might pretend their lives to be, Jake found solace in the repetitive cadence of music, each note forging pathways to emotions he had long buried. It was an unusual power, this ability to translate feelings into sound. There was comfort, yes, but also an undeniable sharpness, an awareness of vulnerability that thrived at the edges of his newfound connection with Max. As the days passed, they made music together almost daily. The attic transformed into a sanctuary, filled with the aroma of his son's laughter, mixed with the scent of aged wood and forgotten memories. Each melody brought them closer. Yet Jake remained haunted by the confession he had made during their first musical encounter. How long before he again found refuge in evasion? With each song, something shifted within him. He began exploring a repertoire, not just for Max, but for himself. Considerable time had lapsed since he dared to pour his heart into meaningful lyrics. The exhilaration stemming from this creative process competed with his fears, but a growing belief flickered in the depths of his consciousness. Perhaps he could navigate the balance between protection and truth with music as his guide. "Can you write us a new song, Dad?" Max's voice reverberated off the attic walls one afternoon, his inquisitive eyes filled with possibilities. Jake hesitated, grappling with the notion of crafting something original while cloaked in the weight of unresolved truths. Alone in his thoughts, he remembered a phrase from his own childhood. "The truth is a runaway train. It always finds its way back." The reality gnawed at him. If creativity were a bridge to honesty, could he dare to venture into uncharted territory? "Sure, I'd love to try," he finally responded, determination edging out fear. Inspired, Jake began investing late nights in writing, pouring fragments of his essence into lyrics. While scribbling furiously in a notepad, he felt reluctant optimism. Max was his muse, yet lurking beneath the surface was an internal struggle. Each lyric sang of aspiration and responsibility. They illustrated his journey, the desperate hope for forgiveness and acceptance beneath layers of conscious self-deception. Days turned to weeks, and their attic sessions became rituals, radiating warmth and acceptance, all while Jake wrestled with self-doubt. What if Max questioned the lyrics? What if the joy of music became overshadowed by inquiries that marked the edge of his own shame? One evening, while shredding the silence, Max spoke up. "Dad, are you ever sad?" The question hung in the air, palpable and stark. Jake froze, the weight of the moment washing over him. He could feel the world slip back into chaos, the shadows of emotion clamoring for attention. Here was the boy he loved, peering into a fogged glass that might hold his father's truths. "Sometimes," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think sadness helps us understand happiness." Max stared back, somber, digesting what was said. The boy's unyielding gaze scrutinized words that resonated far deeper than Jake intended. Was he risking too much by offering glimpses of his inner world? Or was honesty the only way to lift the veil of pretense they had cloaked themselves in? The question lingered, a riddle waiting to unfold. As Jake returned to his guitar, thoughts spiraled around the precarious balance of truth and illusion he had relied on for so long. He risked his comfort for the path toward intimacy, but the nagging sense of uncertainty fueled his apprehensions. How could he assure Max of a bright future while grounding himself in the present's reality? Flawed, yet true. He cast one last glance at Max, whose eyes still sparkled with curiosity, unaware of the brewing storm of possibilities behind them. What if one song, a culmination of their journey thus far, could help break down walls? But as the first drum echoed in the attic, Jake's heart fluttered with anticipation and dread. Could this song truly encapsulate their shared experience? Would it be the bridge, or the barricade? With a breath laden with unspoken fears, he began. And in that moment, at the cusp of revelation through music, a new question echoed in his mind. Was he ready to unveil the deeper truth that lay buried, waiting for a melody to pull them into the light? As the night descended, the attic transformed yet again into a cocoon of warmth, where guitar strings hummed softly under Jake's fingertips. The weight of anticipation hung heavy in the air. He hesitated, wrestling with his ever-evolving relationship with honesty. The song he was about to craft was more than notes woven together. It was a confrontation with the often invisible lines he had drawn to guard his heart. With every pluck of the strings, he built a melody that spiraled into an invigorating tension, an echo of his internal storm. Words began to spill out, a mixture of vulnerability and blind optimism. As if guided by a force greater than himself, he bridged gaps within his lyrical lines, each one a step toward raw honesty. Max, ever the attentive listener, sat cross-legged before him, his expression a cocktail of eagerness and contemplation. Jake found solace in his son's silent rapport, feeling that the boy's unfiltered curiosity just might hold the key to unraveling the walls he had so meticulously built around himself. "Dad?" Max interrupted, his small voice piercing the intertwining melodies. "Why do you write about sadness?" Jake inhaled deeply, shifting his gaze to the boy. Here was the moment, an unexpected invitation to delve deeper into a conversation he had long avoided. "Well, sometimes sadness tells us a story. It can be beautiful and honest," he responded, each word meticulously chosen as if writing them down anew. "What kind of story?" Max asked, tilting his head in the way only a child could, so pure and earnest, entirely absorbed in his father's response. Jake paused, weighing the implications of his next words. They had already breached the threshold of music, each lyric a mirage of truths he felt compelled to share. Yet, did he dare go further? What shadows lay behind the curtains of his curated life? The kind that helps us understand ourselves better. It's like digging for treasure buried deep inside. Sometimes we have to confront the dark to find the light. His heart raced as he offered not just an explanation, but a piece of his soul. Max contemplated this as he observed Jake, who felt stripped bare beneath the vulnerability exposed by his own words. The attic, once just a space for melodies, now transformed into a sanctuary of possibility. Could this sharing truly be the key to unlocking not just his own burdens, but also providing his son with a clear view of love and pain's intricate dance? Just as the thought flickered through his mind, Max's tiny hand reached out. "But, Dad, if you're sad sometimes, does that mean I should be sad too?" Suddenly, Jake's chest tightened with the weight of responsibility. Could he reshape the way Max perceived sadness? Or better yet, how he'd learn to carry it? His son's journey had only just begun, but Jake realized he could serve as both guide and protector, a role built not merely on shielding his child from sadness, but on teaching him the power of resilience and truth. "No, buddy," Jake replied, his voice steadying with resolve. "It's okay to feel sad. But we can also dance in that sadness. We can create music, just like we are now. It allows us to look at things from a different angle and make sense of our feelings." A spark lit in Max's eyes, reflecting both comprehension and hope. As Max contemplated Jake's words, Jake felt the weight on his own heart lighten, a realization that authenticity invited connection. Their music sessions had the potential to reshape their emotional landscape, for both father and son, and that night they forged a new melody together, each note a heartbeat moving toward honesty. Jake infused his lyrics with the newfound determination to face the truths he had veiled. Yet beneath the surface, another question brewed ominously. Would unveiling these truths reinforce their bond, or unravel the very foundation of trust they'd built. As the final notes resonated in the attic, Jake's heart raced not just with pride, but with trepidation. They had ventured into terrain thick with vulnerability, and he knew he needed to decide how far he was willing to go. How could he embrace this clarity while still guarding Max's innocence? As Max settled down, lulled by the remnants of their musical outing, Jake found himself staring into a future filled with uncertainty and opportunity. It was clear now. The truth wasn't merely a runaway train. It was a force of nature that could either lift them to new heights or derail everything they held dear. In that moment, Jake vowed to confront whatever awaited beyond the attic walls. The journey into resonance and redemption had begun, and he knew the next step would lead them further into uncharted waters. But how would Max react when confronted with the depths of sadness intertwined with the brilliance of joy? Would the boy still see his father as a source of strength? Or would his perception shift with the unveiling of deeper truths? The following day the attic felt different, charged with unspoken questions lingering in the corners like shadows. Jake descended the ladder with a mix of anticipation and dread. His conversation with Max had opened a door he hadn't expected. Now he felt pressure to define what it meant to be both a father and a human, wrestling with his own emotions. Jake's daily routine seemed mundane, yet significant in its predictability. As he brewed coffee, the hum of the kettle served as a reminder of his own rising tension. Each sip at the kitchen table became both a moment of comfort and a reminder of the responsibilities he carried. But the brewing conversation with Max pressed on him. How could he provide guidance when he himself often felt lost? The vulnerability they punctured the night before hung in the air, demanding resolution and clarity. Perhaps it was time for him to confront his own past. Discovering the layers of hurt within himself could illuminate the path for Max, shaping their relationship into something richer and more genuine. With a quick glance at the clock, Jake impulsively decided to take a walk. He slipped on a jacket and headed toward the nearby park, where he and Max typically spent weekend afternoons. As he strolled, the crisp autumn air invigorated him, but it also pulled at the threads of his memory. Reminders of moments when he chose silence over engagement, when he let pain fester rather than share it. Could he share those truths with his son without burdening him? Sitting on a bench, he watched children play, their laughter skimming across the golden leaves like sunlight. Moments later, he pulled out his phone, hesitated, then started typing. His fingers clashed against the screen, forming a message to an old friend, someone who had known him before life's entanglements twisted his heart. "Hey, it's been a while. Can we talk? I've got some things on my mind that I need to sort out." After hitting send, a wave of anxiety consumed him. What if revisiting the past unearthed feelings he was unprepared to handle? But that's what growth meant, didn't it? Facing fears and digging through the layers he often buried beneath expected smiles and hollow laughter. Returning home, Jake found Max sprawled on the couch, animatedly discussing a cartoon character's adventures. For a moment, he was overcome by an urge to wall off his own emotional turbulence, to slip back into the routine of fatherhood defined by lightheartedness. But wasn't that exactly what he had vowed against? "Hey, buddy," Jake said, casually settling beside Max. "Can I ask you something?" Max paused, his attention drawn from his animated showdown. "Is it about sadness again?" Jake chuckled softly, the sound resonating with something deeper. "Kind of. It's about feelings in general, really. If you were sad, what would make you feel better?" Max pondered, his brows furrowing in an earnest contemplation that reminded Jake of their recent heart-to-heart. "I think maybe talking about it, or drawing." "You could draw your sad feelings," Max suggested, eyes alight with youthful intuition. A surge of warmth rushed through Jake, appreciating that such simple wisdom could break open complex truths. You might be right. Drawing sketches of feelings sounds interesting, he replied, a plan forming in his mind. Perhaps a shared art project could be their way to push boundaries of openness, a bridge connecting their worlds. Jake's confidence surged as he decided the ensuing weekend would be dedicated to uncovering deeper shades of their feelings through art. His mission had grown. They would expose sadness, fear, joy, and everything in between with colors and melodies as tools for exploration. But beneath the optimistic veneer lay a gnawing fear. What if tapping into these emotions stirred up more than they bargained for? Would they unlock Pandora's box, revealing truths not just hidden from Max, but entrenched within Jake himself? The week passed slowly, each day filled with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Both father and son prepared for a journey that promised to be both enlightening and frightening. As the weekend approached, Jake found himself longing for that old friend's response, feeling the pull of the past stronger than ever. It was time for him to confront the ghosts that had shadowed his vitality. The morning of their art session dawned bright, promising clarity. However, an ominous thought nagged at him. What if this journey revealed something they weren't ready to face? Whether the exploration would strengthen their bond or crack it open lay heavily in Jake's heart. Now, he stood at the threshold of transformation, teetering on the edge of fear and courage, desperate to learn what discoveries awaited him and Max. Would they emerge as better versions of themselves? Or would the journey into their emotions fracture everything they knew? Jake woke with the sun spilling golden light across his bedroom, illuminating the stark reality of his situation. Today was the day they would confront the tapestry of their emotions through art, a canvas of colors waiting to capture both the weight of their fears and the buoyancy of their joys. Yet those colors felt muted against his growing apprehension. He lingered over breakfast, each bite a reminder of the emotional storm swelling within him. As he poured another cup of coffee, he caught a glimpse of Max in the living room, surrounded by art supplies scattered across the floor, like the thoughts Jake couldn't seem to articulate. His son exuded a carefree energy, wholly unaware of the conflict swirling in his father's mind. "Ready for today?" Max chirped, glancing up with an eager smile that made Jake's heart flutter with both pride and trepidation. How could such a small creature hold the power to ignite both joy and anxiety? "Absolutely. I thought we could start by drawing something that makes us happy," Jake suggested, trying to channel the enthusiasm radiating from his son. But inside, he wrestled with the concept of happiness, questioning what that truly meant for him. A man who had spent years carefully erecting walls around his emotions. As they gathered their supplies, Jake felt a creeping doubt. Could he really take this leap? The stakes felt higher than he anticipated. He looked at Max, who was blissfully unaware of the labyrinth of Jake's past, and wondered if sharing his truth would shatter the innocence he cherished. He searched for a distraction, but the vibrant colors lying before him beckoned him to unravel his guarded heart. The moment they began their drawings, Jake felt a small ember of vulnerability flicker to life within him. He guided Max's hand as they sketched scenes of laughter, games, and family, a portrayal of their shared bliss. Yet, as the colors danced on the paper, so too did the memories of darker times loom over him. He drew himself as a shadow, an outline filled with jagged lines to symbolize his unvoiced fears. In his mind, an emotional cascade was building, weights clamoring to be released. But could he truly express it all without burdening Max? "Dad, what's this?" Max pointed to the somber shadow nestled among bright renderings of their joy. His inquisitive tone made Jake pause. The innocence behind the question struck him like a jolt. There it was, the moment of reckoning. "It's a part of me," Jake stammered, struggling with the simplicity that lay in the truth. "Sometimes I feel like I'm hiding, and it makes me sad." Max studied the contrast, his young face adorning a mixture of confusion and empathy. A reflection of the impact Jake hadn't anticipated. "Why do you hide, Dad?" The question pierced through Jake like a dagger, revealing layers of pent-up grief. Swallowing hard, he felt the urge to protect Max from the weight of the world, yet knew that to shield him now would only swap one burden for another. "It's complicated, buddy, but I know that talking helps, just like what we're doing today." He waved a hand at their artwork. "It's good to let feelings out." Max took this in, scratching his head as if weighing the implications. "Can we draw those feelings together?" he suggested, hope lighting his eyes. "Like superheroes." An unexpected swell of pride heated Jake's chest. Here was a glimmer of the very dialogue he had sought. They would not merely confront shadows, they would conquer them, turning gloom into a canvas of heroism. As they reached for crayons, his phone buzzed with a notification, breaking his concentration. He stole a glance, recognizing the name. A message from his old friend arrived, bridged through years of silence. "Hey, Jake, just got your message. Let's chat soon." The impulsive thought of confronting the past clawed at his insides. Would this be a stepping stone to his redemption, or another interruption to his already precarious journey? As he turned back to Max, enthusiasm bubbling over, Jake realized he stood at the crossroad of his own development. "Let's draw a superhero, one that battles sadness." Max's voice cut through his contemplation, jolting him back to the immediate. In this collaborative creation of joy and openness, Jake felt the threads of connectivity weaving their way to a more authentic relationship. Yet, the weight of his old friend's message loomed heavily, demanding a reckoning with the past. Thus, both father and son began to color their emotions. Bold strokes mingled with hesitant hesitations, a narrative illuminating the complexities of their journey. But as Jake lost himself in the shared task, the reality of the impending conversation with his friend lingered like a specter. The call of the past clamoring to intertwine with their present journey. Would he be ready for what that revelation would unveil? The unfinished canvas whispered promises of growth and daunting truths as night began to creep in. For Jake, the moment to address his own beating heart still loomed larger than life, and he knew it wouldn't remain dormant for long. Jake sat in the quiet aftermath of their colorful creation, the remnants of vibrant crayons strewn about, marking the joy and vulnerability etched into the paper. Max had drifted to a place of imaginative play, whispering heroic monologues as he animated the superhero they had drawn together. But as the sun gathered its final rays, casting flickering shadows across the room, Jake felt the promise of the day swirling around him like the remnants of the colors on their canvas. He couldn't shake the lurking tension. The message from his old friend demanded attention, a stark reminder that unresolved issues pulsed beneath the surface of his newfound openness. Jake watched Max as he animated the scene with a vigor that reignited a pang of longing. Why couldn't he capture that abandon? That freshness of thought? The answer shadowed him. He had spent years barricaded behind defenses, afraid of the emotions compelling him to dive deeper into relationships. And yet, here was Max, a child who breathed life into the very openness Jake feared. This realization sparked a determination in him to explore the truth behind the walls he'd built. "Max," Jake said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Can I tell you about someone from my past?" "Is it a superhero?" Max's eyes widened, reflecting that eager innocence that made Jake's heart ache with both love and anxiety. For a brief moment, Jake thought about how every narrative held a blend of triumph and struggle, heroes and shadows coexisting in perfect disarray. "No, not a superhero. It's just a friend. Someone I haven't talked to in a long time." Jake felt a weight descend as he began to peel back the layers of his guarded heart. "He used to know me well before. Everything changed." Max tilted his head, the colors on their canvas illuminating his features with innocent curiosity. "Did you stop being friends?" Jake hesitated, the memory of lost connections rushing through him like a storm. "Yeah, kind of. It got complicated. Life happened and I didn't know how to navigate through it." "What do you mean? Complicated like a puzzle?" Max leaned closer, his youthful gaze riveted on his father. "More like fear got in the way," Jake confessed, allowing the word to settle heavily on his tongue. "I didn't know how to talk about things that scared me, so I pushed him away." Max's brow furrowed slightly, his youthful wisdom surprising Jake. "But talking helps, right? Just like our drawing?" The clarity in Max's statement brought forth a surge of clarity for Jake. Talking helps. It was a mantra forgotten until now. "Yes, buddy. Talking helps." They sat together, the unspoken gravity of vulnerability hanging between them. Jake made a decision. He wouldn't shy away any longer. Perhaps every emotion didn't need to be colored in shades of dread. "I think I'll reach out to him tomorrow," he stated, surprising even himself. "Maybe we can talk again." "Good. You can tell him about our superhero," Max exclaimed, transforming the tense moment into one of shared excitement. A smile crept over Jake's face. Perhaps this could be a stepping stone. An opportunity to break down more walls, not just for him, but for his son, too. As they wrapped up their creative endeavors, the shadows of their emotions morphed into a mosaic of possibilities. The night draped itself gently over the world outside, and for the first time, Jake felt a flicker of hope, accompanied by a commitment to embrace the future. But that flicker was a candle in the wind. The night stretched deep, whispering doubt, punctuated by the uncharacteristic message waiting on his phone. Would confronting the past yield healing, or would it lay bare regrets he had long buried? As he put the crayons away, his heart thudded with the duality of anticipation and fear. The moment to decide how to approach this friend loomed ahead. Would he be able to uncover truths that had long stayed hidden? The looming potential for connection mingled with dread, reflecting a truth Jake needed to face, and as he gazed at his creation alongside Max, he wondered if he was truly ready to unmask himself in front of another, each passing moment whispering the weight of possibility. The challenge was coming, one that could shift the trajectory of not just his relationship with Max, but himself as well. The call to the past awaited him, but could he emerge whole? Or would shadows cling too tightly? The dawn broke with a warmth that felt unusual against Jake's anxious heart. He moved through the motions of morning, coffee brewing, cereal pouring, while his mind was tangled in thoughts of his old friend. The message lingered in his mind, demanding clarity. Today, he had resolved to break the silence that bound him to his past. Max, full of energy, danced around the kitchen, oblivious to the tensions resting heavily on his father's shoulders. "Dad, can we draw superheroes again after school?" he chirped, grabbing hold of Jake's leg, joy radiating from his small frame. "Of course, buddy, but I might need to take a little time to talk to a friend first," Jake said, his mind still swirling with the implications of his decision. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that this was not only a conversation about the past, but a vital step toward molding a better future. Not just for himself, but for Max as well. As he watched Max slide into his chair, clutching his action figures, the boy's laughter echoed through the kitchen, a stark contrast to Jake's swirling emotions. "Talking helps, remember?" Max had said, and with each thud of the cereal box against the table, Jake questioned if he truly understood what opening up meant. With his heart pounding, Jake took a sip of his coffee, steeling himself for the call. The ringing brought a rush of memories, laughter shared, deep conversations, a bond that had been severed by his need to retreat. He pressed the phone against his ear, a knot forming in his stomach. "Hey, it's Jake. the silence that followed felt eternal. Jake. Wow, it's been a while. The voice was familiar, yet it cut deep into the barriers Jake had built. Recognition quickly transformed into skepticism, and he sensed animosity lurking beneath the surface. What's up? Just reaching out after all this time? Jake clenched his fists, steadying himself against an impending wave of emotion. Yeah, I wanted to talk. About everything. It sounded braver than he felt, and as he spoke those words, he envisioned the vibrant crayons and the conversations he had shared with Max. Moments mattered. The last time we spoke, it didn't end well, his friend replied, an edge creeping into his tone. Are you sure you want to reopen that? Jake inhaled deeply. Here lay the moment of truth he had privately feared. I made a lot of mistakes. I pushed you away and... Why now? The question was sharp, cutting through the air with undeniable clarity. Because I'm trying to be better, Jake admitted, his voice trembling slightly. I have a son now, and I want him to know the value of real connections. Shielding myself, and him, behind walls isn't the answer. There was a lengthy pause, and Jake felt each second stretch. Vulnerability let his defenses slip, exposing scars that hadn't yet healed. I never thought I'd hear you say that. But Jake, healing takes time. Are you ready for that? Ready or not, it's time. I owe it to the people I care about, including you. Jake answered, the conviction rising inside him. Can we meet? Jake felt a surge of determination as they agreed to meet. It was a small victory, but significant enough to buoy his spirits. Hanging up, the echoes of his own voice rattled around in his head. He was finally stepping into the unknown, breaking free from a cage he had constructed. Daddy, you okay? Max's innocent voice interrupted his thoughts, grounding him in the present. Jake nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, buddy. Just took a big step. Like a superhero? Max grinned, his enthusiasm infectious. Just like a superhero, Jake echoed, recognizing how deeply his son's faith in him struck a chord within. As the day stretched ahead, Jake felt a shift within. He could see the cryptic shadows of his past begin to thin, but anxiety remained. What if reconnecting led to more heartache? What if confronting the past revealed truths he wasn't ready to face? The shadows were still lurking, but for the first time, Jake was prepared to fight them. The evening promised a challenging reckoning, yet the path forward couldn't remain shrouded. Would uncovering the past nourish his growth, or lay bare remnants of regret that had clung too tightly for too long? An invitation to reflect on himself awaited, the stakes higher than ever. Could this confrontation reshape not just his history, but his son's perception of family too? Jake stepped into the fading light of the evening. The familiar path winding toward a cafe held memories of laughter and friendship. It was a different man who walked that route today. A father emboldened by the vulnerability he had begun embracing. The weight of confronting his past loomed larger than ever, yet deep within him flickered an undeniable flame of resolve. The air was brisk, charged with the first hints of autumn. It stirred an awakening in him, a reminder that transformation bore its own kind of beauty. Each step resonated with the acceptance of his truth, the shadows of old fears trailing behind him like ghosts that couldn't silence the clarity that now filled his heart. His old friend was already seated at a table, the years bridging their silence flickering in the flickering cafe lights. Jake took a moment to gather his thoughts, fearless in intent, yet acutely aware of the rawness of this endeavor. He had despaired over his son's inquiries, over the unknowable depths of emotions that had hidden within him for far too long. Hey, Jake said, taking a seat across from the other man. His friend looked at him, a flicker of surprise manifesting in his eyes. You really reached out. I didn't expect that. With bare honesty sparking between them, Jake responded, "There's a lot I need to explain. I regret how things ended, but I can't keep running." "What do you want from this?" The question hung in the air, sharp and unyielding, demanding a solid answer. "I want to reclaim the friendship we had." Jake replied firmly, the weight of the desire buoying him forward. "I've spent too long letting fear dictate my relationships, especially with my son. I don't want to hide anymore, and I can't show him that as a model." The silence served as a mirror. They both weighed the gravity of regrets shared and words unspoken. "It's complicated, Jake. You just vanished," his friend said, rawness spilling from the cracks of their past. "I know. And in that acknowledgement lay the key to something unexpected. Catharsis." With gritted teeth, Jake felt revealed, stripped down to a more honest version of himself. They began exchanging stories. Bricks cracked in their walls as honesty started to weave a pathway out of the jagged past. Shared laughter broke the tension, and soon, memories of their camaraderie began to unfold like a worn book, exchanging tales. As time passed, Jake came to understand how threading together their experiences would forge a new narrative, one that celebrated growth while setting foundations for forgiveness. "I've been learning about emotional honesty with my son," Jake added, thinking back on the moments in the attic filled with creation. "You're using music and art?" his friend inquired, skepticism softened by genuine curiosity. "Yes. And it's forcing me to embrace vulnerability and honesty. I've buried feelings for far too long," Jake said, the realization blooming within him like the first notes of a song finding its melody. "Well, look at you now," his friend said, admiration tinged with disbelief. "It's what you needed all along, a voice, a chance to reconnect." As they delved into deeper discussions, Jake felt nerves settle within a newfound confidence. Their conversation traversed to the conflicts that loomed over them, yet there was no turning back. They discovered that moments of sorrow could intertwine heartbreak, setting the stage for amazing transformations. The shadows that had previously dictated Jake's decisions were all but fading now, cracked and rendered impotent by honesty. By the time they parted ways, an unspoken understanding had tethered their spirits together. "Thank you for listening," Jake said, hope radiating from him like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. "Anytime. Let's not wait so long again." They exchanged numbers, a lifeboat casting hope into the vast sea of time. Jake stepped into the crisp evening air, exhilaration curling at the edges of his heart. He had faced the innumerable threads woven into his past, confronting the echoes of insecurity, as well as the memory of loss. The realization surged through him. Just as sadness could teach them about healing, new connections could illuminate the path toward growth. Returning home, he spotted Max sprawled on the couch, his artistic chaos decorating the table. The evening had shifted something in Jake, a sort of reawakening. "Dad?" Max's voice broke through the hum of his thoughts. "Are you a superhero now?" Jake chuckled, feeling lighter with every word that emerged. "Maybe more like a man trying to be better at being a dad." "Can we create more superheroes?" Max asked, flashing that infectious smile. "Absolutely. Let's make them sing." Jake leaned down, excitement reflected in both their eyes, and together they retreated to the attic, transformation solidifying and hearts aligned. They began crafting melodies that echoed their journeys, laughter spiraling into harmonies that banished shadows lingering just outside their windows. Each note resonated with vulnerability, an exploration into the depth of emotions once hidden, and seeds of insight planted firmly within their shared reality. In this moment, Jake felt pride blossom in the face of his achievement, a tangible writing of the past, but also a keen recognition of the road still stretching before them. His transformation was just beginning. The lessons crafted through music and mutual honesty, a haven where Max and he would continue crafting better stories, true to themselves and each other. Now, standing shoulder to shoulder with his son, Jake reveled in their shared truth, understanding that they were not alone in this journey anymore. They were ready to embrace whatever came next together. This was it. He triumphed, not by burying truths, but by honoring them. The heart of his journey bloomed in the melody they created, and within that, he knew genuine fulfillment awaited. In this moment, he realized he was never meant to be hidden from either past or present. The future awaited, and this time, he was caught in swirling rhythms of hope. He was whole, and Jake had finally conquered the lingering shadows that nearly consumed him, arriving at the beautiful realization that vulnerability fosters connection, and connection breeds strength. It was time to share their music with the world. Do not miss a beat. Subscribe immediately to the channel for the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to help spread the message of overcoming personal struggles. You need to support the journey. Comment below your thoughts on this conclusion and your own theories, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel inspired in their own lives. Don't wait, even one more second.